I went to a wonderful Christmas party last night, and one of the people sitting close to me was a very famous figure in the cultural landscape of this country, who shall remain nameless, pulled me over to one side, and after a few glasses of wine said, "I have a very bold prediction for you." And I paused, I finished chewing, and I listened, and he said, "My very bold prediction is that Keir Starmer will still be Prime Minister come the next election. That any kind of leadership campaign, that all the vultures circling around the Christmas tree at number 10 this year will be shot down one after another, or will just tire. Their wings will just give out and they will settle down. And the strategy here is to kind of flood the zone. Yet again, we're flooding that zone with potential rivals. So, Angela is suddenly brought back from Purda to, she's writing a book, of course, or someone is writing it for her, but she will read it out as an audiobook. She'll be there. Andy Burnham will get a seat in Parliament. There'll be others. And at the end of the day, this will be so exhaustive and exhausting that actually people will just say, oh, let's just stick with Keir, hoping that the bleed of the local elections in May won't be quite as bad as many people predict, hoping that Nigel Farage, Mr. Farage, will be exposed more and more as what many people suspect him to be, and hoping actually that even the Tories come back from the grave in some form or another. And suddenly Keir Starmer, as the guy who's already in place, hopefully with a better story to tell, will prevail. I wonder if that is just wishful thinking for Christmas or actually reality. Two guests to discuss it this morning. Kevin Craig, he's the founder and chief executive of the public relations agency PLMR, a Labour candidate in last year's general election, and Scarlett MccGwire. You've heard her on the programme before, political commentator, former communications consultant to the Labour Party. Welcome to you both. Scarlett, let me start with you. How wrong is my bold friend with his bold prediction?
He could be right, but actually it's going to be really, really tough. And frankly, I think we're at the last throw of the dice. And the people around Keir have got to stop being clever, right? Is that's what they've been for 3 years, and it doesn't get us anywhere. It might have won the last election, but the problem was the election was won because the Tories were rubbish, not because people believed in Labour. And Keir's got to say, he's got to be brave, he's got to be bold, he's got to realise it's this or nothing. It's not about flooding with the other candidate. It's about him coming out and saying, this is what I believe in. Right. And actually, until we get a leader who is leading, he's not going to get anywhere.
And when you say stop being clever, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that let's have lots and lots of candidates, and then in the mix Keir will come up, right? Let's not say anything before the election that might insult somebody or other and get people not voting for him, because that's clever. That's what I call being clever. What I think the British people always want is they want somebody that they can believe in, that they want somebody who knows where they're going, and that is what is leading. And what's so terrible is Keir is great. I mean, he really is. Before he became leader, he knew what he wanted. And then people said, oh, no, but that's not going to win you an election. So I think I think he's got to go. I think he's got to be really,
You think
really
he's got
brave.
to go?
No, I think he's got to go for it. I think he's got to go for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he will go.
All right. Okay.
I mean, the problem is that if he doesn't do something, the May elections will be a disaster, and presumably people in the cabinet will say it's time to go.
Okay.
It's got to go. I mean, so he's really. And
all right, Scarlett. Okay, stay there. I want to see what Kevin has to say about that. Kevin,
I think a lot. Hi, I think a lot of what Scarlett says is quite reasonable. I think 2026 is ultimately, Matt and Scarlett, about whether or not the Labour government under Starmer can deliver change that people feel. Okay, it's as simple as that.
And feel is the most important word in that sentence, isn't it?
It is, because they have to see that the change in government made a difference around them. Now, the irony is, I think, that there are so many good things that are slowly happening, and it's hard to get those across. But in 2026, people have to feel the changes in the NHS, the many hundreds of thousands of families that are going to be lifted out of poverty have to not only feel that, but make a connection to the government that made it happen. Interest rates and an economy that is getting more stable with lots of investment. I mean, it's just a lot of it actually is a communications problem. It's not the only problem, but people are not, the message is not getting across. And I agree with Scarlett, any silliness or student union politics about leadership challenges, forget all of that. I think there's a moral imperative, which is that the Labour Party got this massive but shallow majority with a proposition which was Keir Starmer at the top, Rachel Reeves as Chancellor, Wes Streeting in health, the rest of the team. And it would be arrogant of the Labour Party that I've supported my whole life to think that we can go down the Tory route of changing leaders, and while the rest of the country is out there getting up early and trying to make a life. So any leadership change, in my view, has got to result in a general election. So forget that and make 26 the year where people can feel the difference that politics makes.
But I think you're being a little bit unfair here, because the leadership question, even if it's something that the Labour Party wants to avoid, and it doesn't want to go down the Tory route of changing leaders as often as you change your suit, is that leadership question is proportional to the lack of leadership and vision offered by the man at the top. Isn't that the problem? And the fact that we're still asking, and many of the audience are still asking, and many Labour MPs are still asking, what is our vision? 19 months into office is quite damning as a question, isn't it?
Well, that's very subjective, Matt. I understand. But, the vision was put there. It was basically a capitalist economy that works for more people, public services that deliver, where parents have got hopes their kids' lives.
Yeah, but of course that's a vision, but that is about as general, as a beauty contest acceptance speech. I mean, we all want world peace, but give us something else.
But underneath that, Matt, is real specifics about the NHS, about primary schools, nursery clubs, about an economy where if interest rates keep going down like they've been doing, mortgages become more affordable and more young people can build some of the many homes the government's trying to build. I don't, by the way, for 1 minute, suggest that 2025 was in any way a fantastic year of getting things across for the Labour Party. It has to get better, but it's there. It's there. People just have to feel it.
All right. As you outlined that vision, and you probably did a better job at it than most people in government, I was watching Scarlett very closely, and she wasn't smiling with her eyes or her mouth, but she is now. And I just wonder, Scarlett, what you think. Is that the vision? And is that something that the Labour Party is selling effectively or not?
I think it's the vision, and it's not being sold effectively at all, is that if you go out there, I mean, any MP will tell you, Labour MP on the doorstep, that they don't know about it. All they know about is the problems. And actually, a lot of things have been done, right? I mean, children have been lifted out of poverty, but more than that is in education. There's massive expansion of nursery schools, nurseries. There's breakfast clubs, so that children can go to school early and they can make sure that they get something to eat, so that mums in particular can get to work. All of that, the curriculum is being changed so that actually working class kids once again can do arts and sport instead of being having this terrible rigid only academic. All the Ed Miliband has got a whole thing about renewable, but the problem is that the communications have been terrible. I mean, apparently, masses of press releases are sent out every day so that they're just ignored. But also, I mean, nothing's been joined up. So that,
yes.
It's interesting that Alan Milburn has said, we've got to do something about youth employment. I mean, that is the biggest thing, is the so-called NEETs, the not in employment, education or training. These are young people who are and they've been put out to grass for years, right? We've ignored these people. They've got parents, they've got grandparents. You make a difference to these people, and something can happen. And what we have to do is Keir has to have the big vision. I mean, Kevin's completely right. But more importantly, he's got to say, this is what we're going to do for these people. We are not going to allow this. I mean, in a way, what we need is the real Keir to come out and say, I am going to lead the country, and not this sort of rubbishy things of I will take on any challenger said by Morgan McSweeney, not even Keir. But actually, you know, I mean, I think he's got to spend Christmas thinking, what do I do to save myself?
Didn't he spend last Christmas doing this? I remember last Christmas he said, I will spend this break trying to, I'm going to look into my soul, I'm going to stare into the mirror, and I'm going to ask myself what I am really about. He's already had one Christmas doing that. He's going to have this Christmas doing that. Kevin, I want to... Go on. No, Kevin, I want to ask you, is the real problem here that Labour is trying to do something which Labour has done before, and it did it under Tony Blair, and he's trying to do it again, but he hasn't got either the charisma or the language or the economic sort of landscape inherited, thank you very much, from the Tories, in order to make it work, which is to tell two different stories to two different constituencies. He's trying to tell a growth story to the business community and the City of London, and Rachel's been doing that from the very beginning, and then he's trying to tell, perhaps a more persuasive story about social values and social care, to another part of the country. And actually, what we want to hear is, how do you make the economy grow so that you can afford all the stuff that you're handing out? And that bit I've not heard yet, Kevin.
Well, you make a very fair point again, Matt, and that is the challenge, because
two fair points in one interview. This is a victory for me, Kevin.
Labour governments offer one thing. They offer capitalism with a social conscience, a country where you can make money, get on, be aspirational, but that brings the worst off with you and funds your public services. And that, I think, hopefully Keir will have more time.
Except we're not making the money. The economy is flatlined. Growth is very anemic.
No. It's actually, that's a whole programme in itself, Matt, about the billions of investment coming in, falling interest rates, job creation.
Billions of investment. The deal with the Americans has been put on ice because the Americans tried to change the name of the deal.
Yeah, but apart from that, you've got people like JP Morgan Chase and Nvidia investing billions into the country. We've had more foreign investment come in than we have in over 10 years. It's all there. I mean, that's a fact. And so, but people, as I said, until they feel it, 2026 is the year where people feel the difference that a centre-left government, capitalism with a conscience, can make to their lives.
Okay, Scarlett, so I've been when you read the recent press releases from the Labour Party, and they are like sort of Christmas baubles coming down all the time, and fair enough. The one word that has come up over and over again is the word story. We need to tell a story, a bedtime story, a Christmas tree story. It's all about the story. And of course, we've been saying this because we're saying they're very bad at, doing stories. But it's not just story, is it? You've got to get your story straight, and you've got to be able to tell it. And then, as Kevin said, you've got to have the facts on the ground so that people can feel the narrative of that story.
Yeah, and you've got to have both. And actually saying we need, I mean, it's fine for people like me to say we need a story, but actually that's not what the press people need to do, is tell the story, is to say there really is a difference. Now, it's incredibly difficult to get people to feel. I mean, I remember the last Labour government, there was that they did an awful lot to get single women back to work. They did a lot on nurseries, and actually we are not grateful as a country. We go, yes, that's what we need. That's what we should have. And I think also he's got to talk about Britain as a country that he loves. And
which he has been doing, to be fair. Although he started the narrative with the island of strangers, then he realised that sounded far too much like Enoch Powell. Yeah, exactly.
Actually, we want the opposite. And he did begin, and it is really good. And the problem is he does a little bit, and he does a little bit of what he believes in, which is not the island of strangers, but is a tolerant country where what we want is more harmony, not less.
Okay.
And then he moves on to something else because his press people are bought. Basically,
stick with the plot, stick with the narrative,
and go with your heart.
Okay.
It is the last chance saloon for him.
Fine. Final question. I want a 5-second answer from both of you. You go first, Scarlett. Is Keir Starmer's greatest asset Nigel Farage in opposition?
No, because the problem is he's too worried about what Farage is saying. That's the problem. Farage might give him the election, but it's really bad for Labour Party policy.
I was trying to be counterintuitive there, and it didn't really work. But the idea being that he's the unacceptable for many people.
Yeah.
No,
I completely agree.
I don't even have to explain it. Okay, of course I'm sorry, I'm being a bit dim here. Kevin, what about you? Do you think he is the best thing that's happened to Keir Starmer?
No, because my observation is it doesn't matter how much mud you throw at Farage for very deserving reasons. Labour will succeed by the execution and implementation of the positive change people voted for. If they think you're trying to deflect by criticising others, they won't buy for it. 2026, they need to feel it.